Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about the Atomos Ninja Inferno. Well, I'm going to be reviewing it. But first I should start off with my first Atomos product. The Ninja Blade. Now I got the Ninja Blade when I got the C100 Mark II. It came as part of a bundled deal. It was the first time I'd ever had an external monitor, let alone an external recorder. It was good, I used it for several years, then unfortunately it broke. It was on a film shoot, I think some moisture must have got inside it. The screen went completely dead. I looked at having it repaired, but it's outside its warranty because I've had it for a while, and from what I could tell online, it was going to be fairly expensive and certainly not worth the price of the recorder. So for a while, I figured I didn't really need it and I just lived without having a monitor or a recorder. The data rate wasn't too bad. Even though the C100 Mark II is only doing 28 megabits per second, Canon cameras have a way of performing beyond what the spec sheet would suggest. So despite 28 megabits per second not being the highest bitrate, there was still not really any compression issues or anything. The image looked very nice. However, for doing visual effects work, that was a bit more of a problem because you zoom in to 200 or 400% to mask around something, to green screen, to motion track, and you could start to see recording artifacts. And this was also a bit of a problem for color grading. If you applied too heavy of a grade, then the image would start to fall apart a bit, because there simply wasn't enough data. But by far, the bigger problem was the monitor aspect. Making sure everything was in focus, correctly exposed, seeing what was in the shot. So after a few weeks of careful research, I decided to buy the Atomos Ninja Inferno. Now I realize that at first, that may seem like overkill, but there aren't any 7-inch recorders that only do 1080p. And there are some other reasons why I wanted the future-proofness, which I'll talk about later. Now, first impressions with this weren't great. Or rather, I should say, second impressions. The first shoot I took it on, everything worked fine. In fact, it was really nice having a big monitor, finally being able to see my image properly. But on the second shoot, things didn't go quite so well. The monitor kept overheating and turning off after 20 minutes of use, and then it wouldn't stay on for a while until it had cooled down again. It was pretty obvious that the cooling system, or something related to the cooling system, had broken. So I sent it back, it got passed along to the Atomos UK repair support, whatever it is, division, and I got sent a new one in about a week. Now, this new Atomos recorder has been working fine, and so after that first initial, less than positive experience, I haven't had any more problems. In fact, it's actually had a really positive effect on the quality of my work. The main thing is the monitor aspect. With the Ninja Inferno, I can see exactly what's in focus, what's in shot, I can see if anything's gone a bit wrong, and it's much easier to expose the image. The exposure and focus tools are really helpful, and what was quite cool is the focus peaking does pick up the noise. So if you're exposing an image and you're starting to get some noise in the shadows, well, on the built-in C100 Mark II screen, you're probably not going to see it because it's so fine. You can just about see it on the Ninja Inferno, but what I found is that the focus peaking actually starts highlighting the noise. You can look at that and you can quite clearly see that you're gonna have a problem when you start to color grade the footage, so you can adjust the exposure to get rid of the noise and balance everything out. I'm also very much a fan of the upside down mode that the monitor has, so for whatever reason you want to mount it upside down or you're round on the other side of the camera, you can still very easily see what you're filming. Now, this monitor gets really bright, like really bright, which it has to considering all the HDR functionality, but what this means is that if you're outside, you can see this monitor without a hood. This is incredible. I have never used a monitor this bright before. Now the only problem with this is that this monitor absolutely eats batteries. I use big Sony NPF batteries and the minimum you need is 4 for one shoot, but personally I would feel much safer with between 8 to 10. Any less than that and the monitor's going to run out of battery, or you're going to have to lower the brightness, which seems a shame considering that's one of the standout features of the Ninja Inferno. But I'm not going to complain about this high battery life use. After all, considering how bright the monitor gets and that it is recording ProRes, which involves a lot of processing, 10-bit ProRes is a very high quality file, it makes sense that it's gonna eat batteries, but it's just something to be aware of. You need to make sure you've got a good supply of Sony NP-F batteries. Now moving on to the other benefit of the Atomos Ninja Inferno, and that is the recording. If you just look at the footage straight out of the camera, you're not going to see a big difference between internal recording and the ProRes from the Ninja Inferno, but trust me, when you're doing VFX work or really heavy color grading, you are going to appreciate the extra bitrate. Plus, both ProRes and DNx HD are easier for your computer to edit because they're known as interim codecs or editing codecs, as opposed to H.264, which is not designed for editing. Now, moving on to some other aspects of the Ninja Inferno. The build quality is good. Not amazing, but good. Handling the monitor, it feels very sturdy and it has some nice rubber protective bits around the corners to stop it from accidental bumping into things damage, and the ports feel very well mounted and securely seated too. Having said that, there is a very plasticky feel to the monitor overall. I guess this helps keep the price and the weight down, but it's just not quite as confidence-inspiring as some other more metal alternatives. I am also slightly concerned about the cooling ports and the fact that they're on the top of the monitor. They just seem a little bit exposed to the elements here. I think personally I'd feel more comfortable if they were on the sides of the monitor, like my C100 Mark II or my XC10. Now, if you put two batteries on the Ninja Inferno, it does get quite heavy, and if you have this on a gimbal throughout the day of filming, you're gonna start feeling the weight. But then again, it's a monitor recorder with a lot of components and a lot of the weight is coming from the batteries, so I can't really hold that against it. The user interface is excellent, it's very responsive and easy to use, the touchscreen works well, I find I don't usually miss the buttons, all the controls are very easy to deal with, although some of the sliders can be a little bit fiddly to operate. After my experience with the first recorder, this recorder seems to be very reliable, which is very important for me as a Canon user. I value reliability of film equipment. I like to be able to count on it. I am slightly concerned about what happened with the first Ninja Inferno that I had to send back and be replaced, but that took less than a week and they were very good about it. There were no complications, so overall I think I am confident in this monitor's ability to last. Now that's all I'm going to cover for specs. If you want to see more specs on the Ninja Inferno, then have a look at the website. There's a full list of the specs there. So far I've used the Ninja Inferno with the C100 Mark II for several shoots, and apart from that second shoot, I have been blown away by the product. Very easy to mount it onto the top handle of the C100 Mark II, it's also very easy to mount it on top of a gimbal or a tripod, and the monitor does support Canon C-Log, so you can have C-Log corrected to a Rec 709 profile or to Atom HDR. Now I do realise that the Ninja Inferno is overkill for the C100 Mark II. The main thing is that this is a 4K recorder and the C100 Mark II is only 1080p. Also, the Ninja Inferno can record 10-bit ProRes, but the C100 Mark II only outputs 8-bit. So even though your video files are going to be 10-bit, it's just 8-bit wrapped in 10-bit. There's really no difference between this and a normal 8-bit file. So essentially, what you're getting is you're going from 420 to 422, and you're getting around 10 times higher bitrate, which is a significant jump in quality. But when I was looking at recorders, there really weren't a whole lot of options. In fact, the only 1080p recorder that I could find was the Blackmagic Video Assist, and that was only 5 inches, and I really did want a 7-inch recorder. Video devices, monitors and recorders, they're also really good, but they are significantly more expensive than the Atomos recorders. I know that Atomos used to make several 1080p recorders, but they're not listed anymore on the website, and it's actually quite hard to find them, and to be honest, I would rather get a 4K monitor that's future-proof. Even though the next cinema camera I buy is probably going to do internal RAW, it's still nice to have a 4K external recorder to give you a backup file in case something goes wrong with the main recording or something happens to the camera. Honestly, the thing I was considering buying closest to the Ninja Inferno was the Small HD one of the 700 series. I think the 701 Focus. That's it. Now I was very tempted by it, but at the end of the day I really did want a recorder, so that's why I decided to go for an Atomos product. So to wrap up, do I recommend the Atomos Ninja Inferno, and in particular do I think it's a good companion to a C100 Mark II? Yes, I do. Overall, my experiences so far with it have been very positive. It's very good to have an external monitor, and it's nice to have that little quality boost you get, even if it's slightly overkill. Really, with any camera, if you're going to be doing professional work, you need an external monitor so you can see what you're doing. And the external recording aspect, well, even though it's slightly overkill, it's still nice to get that bumping quality with the C100 Mark II. And unless you need ProRes RAW recording or SDI inputs, then I would get either the Ninja Inferno if you want a 7-inch monitor recorder, or the Ninja 5 if you want a 5-inch monitor or recorder. If you do need ProRes RAW and SDI inputs, then you can go up in the Atomos range to the Shogun Inferno. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing so as not to miss any new videos. See you later.